Ginni Thomas, I speak to you not as a politician, not as a diplomat, not even as a leader of a faraway land. I speak to you as a man who has watched for too long while people like your husband, Clarence Thomas, have turned their backs on the very people who look like them, the very people whose history bleeds into theirs, the very people who still carry scars from centuries of chains. I must first talk to Clarence Thomas. I will speak plainly. You have worn the robe for so long that perhaps you think it shields you from the truth. But no robe, no title, no seat on the highest court can hide the fact that you have abandoned the very people who once looked to you for hope. You are not a defender of the oppressed. You are the guardian of the powerful. You sit in judgment over a nation, but you cannot judge yourself. You speak of the law as if it is holy, yet you bend it to protect those who already live above it. You speak of principles, yet your principles seem to change depending on who is offering you a seat at their table. You, who know the history of chains, now help forge new ones. Do you remember what it is to be poor, to be overlooked, to be treated as though your life mattered less because of the color of your skin? Or has the soft carpet of the elite erased those memories from your mind? You speak with the voice of a man who has forgotten struggle, and when a man forgets struggle, he becomes dangerous. Dangerous because he believes that his comfort is proof of his merit, instead of understanding that his comfort exists because others are still trapped in discomfort. Dangerous because he mistakes the approval of billionaires for the respect of the people. Dangerous because he uses his position to lock doors instead of open them. I tell you this, Clarence Thomas, history will not spare you. You can sign all the rulings you want, you can smile for all the photographs, you can accept every invitation from the rich and powerful, but when your name is spoken in the years to come, it will not be with admiration. It will be spoken as a warning. Here is what happens when a man trades his people for a seat at the master's table. Now I speak to you, Ginni Thomas, because silence in the face of injustice is not neutrality, it is complicity. And your home, Ginni Thomas, has been filled with the kind of silence that echoes louder than screams. Do you understand what that means? It means that when injustice unfolds before your eyes, when you have the power to speak but you choose to remain still, you are not standing aside, you are standing with the oppressor. Silence is never empty. It is filled with meaning, filled with consequences, filled with the suffering of those who needed your voice and did not hear it. Your home, with its walls of comfort and privilege, may seem peaceful to you, but outside those walls, the world is burning for justice. People are marching, shouting, bleeding in the streets, fighting for the basic dignity that should never have been taken from them. And yet inside your home, there is no fire, no urgency, only a calm that is not peace, but the calm of turning away. You may think that silence is harmless, that it is merely not getting involved, but silence is a decision. Silence says, I will not risk my comfort for someone else's freedom. Silence says, I will not disturb my world, even if someone else's world is collapsing. That is not neutrality, that is taking sides. The side of the one with the power, the side of the one who benefits from keeping others down. And your silence, Ginni Thomas, has weight. It is not the silence of a stranger without influence. It is the silence of someone who sits close to power, who can whisper into the ear of a man on the highest court in the most powerful nation in the world. That silence is dangerous because it carries the strength to protect injustice rather than challenge it. I have seen this kind of silence before. In Africa, we have lived through leaders who pretended not to hear the cries of their people. They told themselves they were staying out of conflict, that they were keeping their hands clean. But history does not see them as clean. History sees them as cowards. History remembers their silence as betrayal. And betrayal, Ginni Thomas, does not always come with an act. Sometimes betrayal is the refusal to act. Sometimes it is the failure to speak when a word could save lives. Sometimes it is the decision to close the curtains so you do not have to watch what is happening outside. You may say to yourself, it is not my place, it is not my fight. But tell me, if not you, then who? If not now, then when? You are married to a man whose decisions affect millions. Your influence reaches places where ordinary voices will never be heard. To pretend you have no responsibility is to deny the truth. The silence in your home is not the silence of ignorance, it is the silence of choice. It is the silence of deciding that the cries of the oppressed are not loud enough to disturb your dinner table. It is the silence of looking away from the reality that the very system your husband protects is the same system that has crushed countless black lives in America and kept Africa in the shadow of exploitation. You must understand, silence leaves a mark. It stains the hands as much as any act of injustice. When you look back years from now, you will not remember the moments of comfort. You will remember the moments when you could have spoken and did not. And those moments will haunt you far more than any criticism would have if you had chosen to stand up. This is why I speak to you now. Because your silence is not invisible. It is felt by those who are struggling, by those who expected something better from people in your position, and it will be written in the story of your life whether you like it or not. The question is, what will that story say? That you stood aside while injustice raged, or that you found the courage to break the silence before it was too late? You see, I am from Burkina Faso, a small country in West Africa, a country that refuses to kneel before anyone but God, a country that, despite poverty, despite the weight of history, has decided to stand up straight. But I have learned something, that oppression does not always come in the form of a foreign soldier on our soil. Sometimes it comes dressed in a black robe, sitting on the highest court of a powerful nation, handing down decisions that hurt his own people, and smiling while doing it. Your husband, Clarence Thomas, has sat on that bench for decades, and yet tell me, where is his voice when black men are murdered in the streets of America? Where is his outrage when mothers cry over the lifeless bodies of their sons, taken not by war in a foreign land, but by the cold hands of injustice in their own neighborhood? Where is his voice when the names of the dead echo through the streets, names chanted in protests, written on cardboard signs, painted on walls as desperate reminders that those lives mattered? Does he hear them, Ginni Thomas, or has he grown deaf to the cries of his own people? Where is his outrage when the world watches footage of a man begging for breath under the knee of an officer, when millions feel the collective pain of knowing that this is not an accident, but a pattern, a system? Where is his humanity when it is time to stand up and say enough? You see, I know something about leadership. Leadership is not about the titles you hold or the robes you wear. It is about the courage to stand in uncomfortable places, to confront truths that powerful people want buried. But Clarence Thomas, where is that courage? Where is that fire? When policies are passed in America that strip away the rights of the poor, where is his protest? When laws are crafted that chip away at the dignity of the powerless, where is his resistance? When court rulings send a clear message that the rich grow richer while the poor are left to fend for themselves, where is his voice? I do not hear it. The people do not hear it. All they hear is silence or worse. Rulings that side with those who already have too much. Where is his courage when it comes to speaking truth to the same elites who keep their boots on the necks of the oppressed? Those elites, the ones who invite him to their yachts, their private resorts, their grand dinners. Do you think they care about the struggles of ordinary black Americans? Do you think they care about the fate of Africa or the exploitation of its people? No. They care about their wealth, their influence, and how men like your husband can protect those things from the reach of justice. And yet, Clarence Thomas smiles with them. He shakes their hands. He accepts their hospitality, their gifts, their praise. But what good is praise from the powerful if it is bought with the suffering of the powerless? What honor is there in being the favored judge of the oppressor? I ask again, where is his courage? Courage is not shown in writing rulings that please those in high towers. Courage is shown in standing alone, if necessary, for the truth. Courage is shown in remembering the struggles of your ancestors and refusing to become the tool of the very forces they fought against. Has he forgotten where he came from? Has he forgotten what it means to be the descendant of people who were enslaved, who were chained and sold, who fought to survive in a system designed to destroy them? How can a man with that history sit in the highest court of a land and not feel compelled to defend the people whose history is his own? And you, Ginni Thomas, do you not see it, or do you choose not to? Does it not trouble you that your husband, a man who could have been a beacon for millions, has instead become a shadow standing in the path of justice? Where is his voice when Africans are robbed of their resources by multinational corporations protected by Western courts and laws? Where is his solidarity when Africa stands and says, we will no longer be slaves to foreign powers? Where is his empathy when Africa's young people cry out for independence, for dignity, for the right to build their own future without chains, economic, political, or legal? Where is his outrage when leaders in Africa who dare to defy Western exploitation are demonized, sanctioned, overthrown? Does he speak then? Does he rise to say, we will not allow Africa to be exploited forever? No, his silence is deafening. And let us not pretend this is just about judicial restraint or following the law. The law, as I have said before, is only as just as the men who interpret it. And when the man interpreting it chooses to turn away from the cries of the oppressed, he is not upholding justice, he is betraying it. For decades, Clarence Thomas has had the opportunity to show America and the world that a black man in such a position of power can be the champion of the voiceless, the defender of the downtrodden. He could have been the one to say, I will not forget where I came from, I will not forget the struggle of my people, but instead, he chose the comfort of the powerful over the truth of the powerless. I ask you, do you think history will look kindly on this choice? Do you think the children of tomorrow will read about Clarence Thomas and say, here was a man of integrity, a man of courage? Or will they say, here was a man who had everything, the knowledge of his people's pain, the power to change their fate, and he squandered it to serve those who needed no more serving? Where is his courage, Ginni Thomas? Where is his heart? Leadership without heart is nothing but a hollow performance. Power without justice is nothing but tyranny in a different uniform. And silence in the face of evil, is not silence at all. It is agreement. I am asking you, not as a foreign leader, but as a human being. Tell your husband that his people are watching. Tell him that Africans are watching. Tell him that history is watching. And tell him that the silence he thinks protects him will one day be the very thing that condemns him. Because a voice that could have been used to lift up millions is being wasted. And wasted voices do not just fade away. They become the echoes that haunt those who had the chance to speak and chose not to. Instead, I see him smiling alongside billionaires who wine and dine him. I see him accepting gifts and favors from men who profit from keeping Africa dependent, from keeping Black America silent, from keeping the world unequal. I see him enjoying luxury, while the people whose struggle he should carry in his heart are crushed under the weight of systems he protects. And you, Ginni Thomas, you are not just a bystander. Do not think for one moment that history will see you as some passive observer, simply standing in the shadows while the world's decisions were made without you. No. You have walked the corridors of power. You have stood in rooms where the fate of nations was being discussed. You have shaken hands with those whose influence stretches across continents. You have spoken into ears that can shape laws, economies, and even wars. You are not a spectator in this story. You are a participant with the kind of access and reach that millions of ordinary people will never have in their lifetimes. And what have you done with that access? You have used it to push agendas that serve the same elite circles who feast while the rest of the world starves. Do not pretend that this is accidental. You know very well who those circles are. They are the people who see the suffering of the poor as an unfortunate statistic, not a human tragedy. They are the people who talk about freedom and opportunity while locking the doors to those who need them most. They are the ones who smile in your face and speak of democracy, yet fund the machinery that keeps entire nations under economic chains. And you have aligned yourself with them, not reluctantly, not by chance, but deliberately. You have chosen to stand with those who believe in maintaining the status quo, the very status quo that has buried generations of black people under poverty, injustice, and disenfranchisement. Think about that word, buried. It is not a word of life. It is not a word of growth. It is a word of finality, of death, of something hidden under the earth where it cannot rise again. That is what the system you protect has done to millions. It has buried their dreams before they could breathe, buried their hopes before they could blossom, buried their potential under mountains of systemic injustice. And what is the status quo you defend? It is the system in which wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few while entire communities are abandoned. It is the system in which the legal structure serves the powerful and disciplines the powerless. It is the system in which a child born in poverty has a better chance of ending up in prison than in a university. It is the system that has written laws and policies not to protect the vulnerable, but to protect the property and profits of those who already have too much. Ginni Thomas, you may think that your role is simply to support your husband, to give him counsel, to be by his side as he makes decisions that shape the lives of millions. But your influence is not invisible. Every conversation, every piece of advice, every connection you foster, it all plays into the great machinery of power. And when that machinery grinds down the lives of the weak, you cannot wash your hands and say, "It was not my doing." It was, because power is not only in the hand that signs the paper, it is in the mind that whispers in the ear of the one holding the pen. You are not powerless. You never have been. But instead of using that power to uplift the poor, you have used it to cement the place of the rich. Instead of using it to challenge injustice, you have used it to reinforce it. Instead of standing with the oppressed, you have stood with the oppressor. Do you know what it means to stand with the oppressor? It means sharing in their guilt. It means inheriting their shame. It means that when history turns its eyes to this moment, your name will not be found among those who fought for liberation, but among those who helped build the walls that kept people in chains. You may tell yourself that you are working for stability, for order, for the good of the country, but whose stability, whose order, whose good? Because there is nothing stable about a nation where one group dines on abundance while another cannot afford bread. There is nothing orderly about a system where justice depends on the color of your skin or the size of your bank account. And there is nothing good about a country that lectures the world about human rights while turning its back on its own citizens when they cry for equality. You've been close enough to power to see its hypocrisy with your own eyes. You've seen the way the elite speak one language in public, a language of unity, fairness, and democracy, and another behind closed doors where strategy is discussed in terms of control, dominance, and profit. You've been close enough to see that the system is not designed to change for the better on its own. It must be challenged, shaken, confronted. And yet you have not challenged it. You have defended it. You have helped it survive when it should have been dismantled. Do you not see the irony? You and your husband, both born from communities that know what it is to be marginalized, now serving as protectors of a system that marginalizes others. You have become what you should have fought against. And the tragedy is that you still have a choice. You could walk away from the corridors of the powerful and stand in the streets with the powerless. You could use your connections to demand change instead of blocking it. You could be remembered as someone who chose justice over privilege. But that choice is slipping away, Ginni Thomas. Every day you spend defending the status quo is a day you become more entrenched in its legacy. And make no mistake, that legacy will be written in history. Not with praise, but with condemnation. There is a day coming when the voices of the poor will be louder than the wealth of the rich. There is a day coming when Africa will rise from exploitation, when Black America will rise from systemic oppression, when the oppressed of the world will rise together and demand justice, and when that day comes, those who stood with the oppressors will have no refuge in their titles, their wealth, or their connections. I tell you this not to threaten you, but to warn you. Your influence could be used for good, but it is being wasted in service of a system that will one day fall. And when it does, you will wish you had chosen the side of the people. Because power fades, wealth fades, connections fade. But the record of what you stood for will remain forever. And right now, that record shows you aligned with those who hold the world in chains. You are not just a bystander, Ginni Thomas. You are a builder of the system. And the only question now is, will you keep building walls of oppression, or will you start tearing them down before it is too late? I am here to tell you something that perhaps no one has told you directly. You and your husband are living a lie. You wrap yourselves in the language of freedom and patriotism while ignoring the cries of the oppressed. You claim to uphold justice, yet you remain silent when justice is denied to people who share your skin, your history, your struggle. Clarence Thomas, a man who rose from humble beginnings, who should have been the loudest defender of the downtrodden, has instead chosen to be the quiet servant of power. And you, Ginni Thomas, stand beside him, comfortable in that silence. But let me tell you, comfort is dangerous when it is built on the suffering of others. Comfort can blind you. Comfort can make you believe that what you have is deserved, when in reality, it has been bought at the expense of those who will never have the same chance. Do you think history will remember your comfort kindly? Do you think history will forgive the way you looked away while injustice reigned? No. History is a fierce judge, and when the truth is told, when the dust of this age settles, your names will not be remembered for the wealth you accumulated or the rooms you entered. They will be remembered for your betrayal. Betrayal, not of a country, but of a people, of a shared struggle, of the moral duty to use power to uplift, not to crush. You might say, but we are not responsible for Africa. And maybe in your mind that's true. But you are responsible for justice. You are responsible for truth. You are responsible for the dignity of human beings, no matter where they are born, no matter the color of their skin. And when you see injustice, whether it is in the streets of Washington or in the villages of Burkina Faso, and you do nothing, you have taken the side of the oppressor. I am not here to flatter you. I am not here to speak softly so you can sleep well tonight. I am here to tell you what you do not want to hear. You have a moral debt, and every day that you and your husband remain silent, that debt grows. Do you understand the weight of that? The people of Africa watch America. They watch your courts, your leaders, your policies. And they see a black man on the highest court, but one who will not speak for them. Do you know how that feels? It feels like a knife in the back. It feels like abandonment. It feels like the very people who should be breaking the chains have decided instead to polish them. And I know you will say that your husband believes in the law, that he interprets the Constitution, that he is neutral. But I will tell you this, the law is only as just as the men who interpret it. And neutrality in the face of injustice is not neutrality. It is siding with the oppressor. I am asking you, Ginni Thomas. No, I am urging you. Use your influence not to protect the powerful, but to defend the powerless. Use your voice not to whisper in the ears of billionaires, but to shout in defense of those whose voices are never heard. Do you think the elite will stand with you forever? They will not. The moment you are no longer useful to them, they will discard you like yesterday's news. But the people you have ignored, the people you have turned your back on, they will remember. And they will not forgive. Your husband is already remembered by many as a man who turned his back on the struggles of his own people, but you still have time. You still have the choice to stand for what is right. Do not waste that choice. Do not waste the chance to be on the right side of history, because the tide is turning, Ginni Thomas. Across Africa, leaders are rising who will no longer bow to the West, who will no longer accept crumbs from the tables of the powerful. They are rejecting dependency, they are rejecting exploitation, and when Africa rises, truly rises, the world will change. When that day comes, I hope your name is not counted among those who stood in the way. I hope your name is not counted among those who use their power to preserve injustice. I do not care for your titles. I do not care for your connections. I do not care for the wealth you have accumulated. I care for truth. I care for dignity. I care for justice. And I will speak these words whether they are welcomed or not. Because, Ginni Thomas, history is not written by the comfortable. It is written by the courageous. And you and your husband still have the chance, though that window is closing, to choose courage over comfort. Choose it before it is too late.